do. Say what me have to say. Look here what you have to say. Say what me want to say.
Pull up with the glizzy gon' OD. All these little bodies and they know me. Pull up with the glizzy gon' OD. All these little bodies and they know me. Rockstar Bon Jovi. Rockstar Bon Jovi. All these little bodies and they know me. Rockstar Bon Jovi. I learned it was chores, don't get lost in emotion. Break through the commotion I do. Shots make you jump up, gon' party till sun up like we don't got nothing to lose. All through the come up and working to stun up. I get what I want, yeah I choose. From winter to summer, I keep me my gunner. The haters, they want me to snooze.
This evolution, my evolution. My evolution.
Greetings and salutations, one and all. Welcome to the night shift. It's a brand spanking new week, brand spanking new month. Up we say.
Now it's time for me to be grown. No more time for games, no more time for playing. I will never ever be alone. Gotta make a change, time to rearrange.
Evolution, mind captivation, feel the vibration, never watch babe. Fun on pollution, Afro evolution with a bun. Hip word, I'm a weapon. Rise from the ashes with vengeance, sending the blessings every sentence. Feeling my essence in your presence, ayy. Whoa, ayy.
I want to thank you each and everyone for logging in and having it locked in. Big ups to those tuning in on TuneIn Radio. The night shift to DJ Kevin Stew. One Harmony Radio. Top of the morning to you guys over there in the UK. Those on WGLRO. Big ups to you. Those tuning on PEMGTV.com. Welcome. You got to do what you got to do. Say what you have to say. Special big ups to those who are locked into the home of the night shift, DJ Kevin Stew, kevinstew.com. Welcome. Glad to have you. Couldn't do it without you. You have my word, I wouldn't even try. This is the sound of Una Morgan. Her new track called Evolution. I want to say a special thanks to Pulse Media Group for making this possible. Pulse Media Group, when being in a moment is priceless. You want to give them a link. 754-999-6020 is the number that gets you in touch. Or you can visit them at pulseemg.com.
Evolution, mind captivation, feel the vibration, never watch babe. Fun on pollution, Afro evolution with a bun. Hip word, I'm a weapon. Rise from the ashes with vengeance, sending the blessings every sentence. Feeling my essence in your presence, ayy. Whoa, ayy. Mr. Evolution with a bun, living in illusion through all the confusion. I forgive thanks for the Almighty One. Still remain strong in a white man land. Mr. Evolution with a bun.
So evolution is all about change, right?
Mr. Evolution with a bun. Okay, no pollution.
And things have been changing around us ever since we were born. So whether you are 10 or you're 50, you're 90, things have changed between the time that you were born and now.
No more time for games, no more time for playing. I will never ever be alone. Gotta make a change, time to rearrange.
I want to say a special prayer for those in the Bahamas right now, because for the last 2 days the islands of the Bahamas had been lashed with heavy rain and strong winds, courtesy of Hurricane Dorian. And I've seen video footage coming out of the Bahamas. I've seen pictures coming out of the Bahamas, and it's one of those things that just makes your heart weep. And I say a special prayer for those in the Bahamas. I have friends in the Bahamas, and I haven't heard from some of them. So I know what those that have family members in the Bahamas are going through, and I know it's not pretty. So go ahead and just we extend words of encouragement, words of hope, and words of recovery and rebuilding to those in the Bahamas. It was, we are deemed lucky in South Florida, but it's still early days yet. We're not yet, we still have 2 more months of the hurricane season to deal with. So, South Florida isn't out of the woods yet. But we were spared this time. Dorian was a category 5 hurricane that sat on the Bahamas for 24 hours. It just stayed there, pretty much. And it's now moving away, heading north and a little bit west. But South Florida has been spared. So we have quite a bit to be grateful for. But in the midst of this all, we have to wonder how it is that 3 days ago this storm was a category 3 storm. And then it just leveled up exponentially and became this massive beast of a category 5 storm. And so how when you listen to the media give their take of the storm, you'd really think that's an actual person that they're talking about. And I guess that's what you go through when you give names to these naturally occurring things. You give them a personality, and you present them as such. You present them as individuals with a mind to do certain things, not realizing that we, the actual individuals, may actually have something to do with it. So tonight, what I had originally planned to talk about with you guys, I changed it and decided to look at global warming, because this is something that we say a lot but never really get into. We talk about it, we mention it, but are we really realizing what the effects of global warming is or are? So I thought it would be, especially with this massive storm that just about everybody is talking about, but it's not just this storm, but it's hot summer days, it's extremely weird winters, it's really wet rainy seasons. These little things, it's the Amazon burning. Forgot about that one, didn't you? Yeah. It's all these little things. Global warming is already having significant and costly effects. And these consequences will only intensify as the planet's temperature continues to rise. And don't get it twisted. The planet's temperature has been rising and continues to rise. So don't sleep on it. Don't think, oh, it's just a thing that people say. No. It's real. You have accelerating sea level rises. Global warming is accelerating the rate of sea level rise and dramatically increasing coastal flooding risks, especially on the US East Coast and the Gulf of Mexico. These are things that are talked about all the time in the news, but nobody really stops and says, wait a minute, hold on. Are we really causing this? And then you have leaders of nations like that big orange wonder that says, what are you talking about, this global warming? It's just a fad. What? No, you're a fad. You're having longer and more damaging wildfire seasons. Did we notice that? Wildfires are increasing and wildfire season is getting longer in the western US, and this happens as temperature rises. So what else is happening? You have dangerously hot weather that is already occurring more frequently than it did 60 years ago. So you're having more intense and more frequent heat waves. Is that by chance? Climate change has significant implications for our health. And this includes increased air pollution and a longer and more intense allergy season. Greetings 342. Thank you. Anybody notice how many people are saying, boy, my allergy is really bothering me this year or this season. I'm really feeling it, and it's worse now than it was before. And anybody really stop to think, wait a minute, it's not just me, it's not just changes in me, it's changes around me that's affecting me? Anybody ever ask, boy, what can I do to make a difference? So if everybody that is listening to this show right now ask, what can I do to make a difference? And then go to one of their friends or one of their family members and ask, what are you doing to make a difference? And then they in turn go and ask that same question. You think we may raise awareness of what is happening globally? Just give it a thought. If each of us ask 3 people and then have them ask 3 more people, you think we could be raising the awareness just a little bit? Just a little bit, not much. I'm not asking for immediate awareness. I'm just asking, do you think that we would be raising awareness? Right, the powers that be wonder why hurricanes are getting more severe over the past years. Because of things like this. Because of global warming. So your allergies are getting worse at right now as we speak. these things. As temperatures increase, more rain falls during the heaviest downpours, increasing the risk of flooding events. Does anybody realize what's happening in like the Midwest and has been happening over the past, say, 8 years? In fact, let's not even go as far as 8 years. Let's say the last 3. Could it possibly be as a result of global warming? Maybe. Yes, no, maybe so. So these are some of the things that we have to be dealing with. When you look at how the sea levels have risen, tides are inching higher. High tide floods are becoming more frequent and reaching further inland. And hundreds of US coastal communities will soon face chronic disruptive flooding that directly affects people's homes, lives, and properties. Yet, you have things like property values in most coastal real estate markets not reflecting this risk. And most homeowners, communities, and investors are not aware of the financial losses that they may soon face. Things to consider. But do people really think about that? Good evening, Julian. Welcome. You're early tonight. How you doing? How was Labor Day? Oh yes, today is Labor Day too. Happy Labor Day to each and every one of you guys. You see, we get distracted by some of these things that are happening around us. Long before rising seas permanently submerge communities between properties, millions of Americans living in coastal communities will face more frequent and disruptive high tide flooding. And as this flooding increases, it will reach a threshold where normal routines become impossible, and coastal residents, communities, and businesses are forced to make difficult, often costly choices. Now, for this analysis, that threshold is defined as flooding that occurs 26 times per year, on average once every other week. And sometimes more. A level of disruption referred to as chronic inundation is labeled. And it is often important to note that this flooding is not caused by storms. It is simply the result of high tides rising higher and higher and reaching further inland. Why? Because sea levels are rising. So why would the information about rising tides be disclosed for coastal regions if it is not possible? Why? I mean, if it is not profitable? Sorry. You have a point. I don't know. For those of you who are tuned in and want to participate, please don't hesitate to do so. 773-789-STEW gets you in touch. 773-789-7839. And of course, you can also jump into the Stew Pot on kevinstew.com. Others call it a chat room. We're fancy. We call it the Stew Pot. Come on. Jump on in. It's where we keep things bubbling. The results identify the number of residential and commercial properties at risk of chronic inundation and the total current property value, estimated population, and property tax base affected for the entire coastline of the lower 48 states. The entire coastline. So there's an analysis, and it finds that more than 300,000 of today's coastal homes with a collective market value of about 117.5 billion with a B billion dollars are at risk of chronic inundation in 2045. Now you might say that's a far way off. But think about this. Where were you 25 years ago? You can think right back to what you were doing 25 years ago, right? Most of us can. Well, once you're above the age of 25, that is. Or let's say above the age of 28. A time frame that falls within the lifespan of a 30-year mortgage that is issued today is affected by this particular bit of information. Approximately 14,000 coastal commercial properties currently assessed at a value of roughly $18.5 billion are also at risk during that time frame. Are we thinking on these things? By the end of the century, homes and commercial properties currently worth more than $1 trillion could be at risk. And this includes as many as 2.4 million homes, the rough equivalent of all the homes in Los Angeles and Houston combined. And these are collectively valued today at approximately $912 billion. Now, by the end of the century, homes and commercial properties currently worth more than $1 trillion could be at risk. By the turn of the century, by the end of the century. Sounds far off, doesn't it? The properties at risk by 2045 currently house 550,000 people and contribute nearly $1.5 billion towards today's property tax base. Those numbers jump to about 4.7 million people and $12 billion by 2100. Yeah, a bunch of people saying, the year 2100 is so far away. I won't even be around for that. Okay, so you're saying that your grandchildren won't be? You don't give any consideration to your grandchildren? They don't matter? These results reflect a high sea level rise scenario. It is not. We're not even talking about storms and rainfall yet. We're just talking about high sea level rise. And this is an appropriately conservative projection to use when estimating risk to homes, which are often the owner's single biggest asset. Even with a more moderate or intermediate rate of sea level rise, nearly 140,000 homes are still at risk of chronic inundation by 2035 and more than 1.2 million by 2100. It is also important to note that these results do not include future development or new homes, nor do they include critical infrastructure like roads, bridges, power plants, airports, ports, public buildings, and military bases. These things are not taken into consideration yet. When all of these are taken together, the effects of chronic flooding could have staggering economic impacts. The challenges and choices that come with rising seas are at minimum profound and have significant implications for coastal residents. But not only coastal residents. The broader economy faces an issue too. Homeowners and commercial property owners are at risk for steep financial losses if their properties flood regularly. Declining property values could erode tax base for communities, jeopardizing funding for vital local services and infrastructure such as roads, schools, and police and fire departments, essential services. What happens when there are no essential services? You may as well not have a community. Mortgages and homes that could become chronically flooded during the term of the loan are inherently riskier. As flooding becomes more frequent, the value of flooded homes will decline, and many homeowners could find themselves with mortgages that exceed the value of their homes, or with homes that are increasingly difficult to insure or have deteriorated to the point of being unlivable. Now, with no obvious option for reversing that trend, some might choose to abandon their homes and allow the banks to foreclose on their mortgages. Of course, that doesn't help with their credit situation now, does it? You see how these things spiral? Banks holding these risky mortgages on devalued properties could find their financial position adversely affected. So now, here comes a ripple effect. And that little ripple becomes a wave. That becomes a tidal wave. Mortgage-backed securities and bonds tied into these riskier coastal real estate mortgages will be at risk of losing value. Real estate developers and investors, as well are at risk of losing money invested in properties that become chronically flooded. So unless you have invested in Waterworld, then your investment is in jeopardy. Once market risk perceptions catch up with reality, the potential drop in coastal property values could have broad reverberations, affecting banks, insurers, investors, developers, and taxpayers, everybody getting affected, and potentially trigger regional housing market crises, as well as affect the broader national economy. So don't just think that it is the ones that are living on the coastline that are affected when you talk about the rise in sea levels. This is how everybody gets affected. Someone saying in the part that's our issue. Even though we may not be physically present, we don't consider the future of the world that our offsprings and our future generations will be forced to endure. We are not making it any better for them. We are the ones that are creating these problems. And sad to say, our grandparents were the ones that put us in this position. And a lot of it is in the name of sadly enough, a lot of it is in the name of development, in the name of technology. Sad, isn't it? So that's your accelerated sea level rise. But there's more. And we're gonna take a break, and when we come back, we're gonna look at more. We're gonna look at what's happening with the heat. And when I say the heat, I'm not talking about the Miami Heat, not the basketball team. No. I'm talking about the heat that we're enduring. The heat that rolls through every summer. That people losing their lives and electricity bills go so high that you can't even fathom what is going to come next. And you can't open the windows because there's so much heat outside, but you can't run the AC because the bill is going so high, and you caught between a rock and a hard place. But survival always wins out in the end, and you're going to bite that bullet and decide, oh, hey, listen, I'm going to spend that extra money because I want to be comfortable. But Is there something else that we can do? That's the whole thing about all of this tonight. About recognizing global warming and its effects. Is there something that I can do? And if nothing else, if you leave this show with nothing else tonight, I wanted to leave asking the question, is there something that I can do? We're going to take a quick little break. When we come back, we talk a little bit more. Call a friend, tell a friend. It's the night shift with DJ Kevin Stew. Tonight we're talking about global warming. It's community and finance night. We are talking how our community on a whole, our global community is being affected. And this by snowballing, by ripple effect, by chain reaction, whichever way you want to put an analogy to it, it affects each and every one of us. We'll be right back.
Pulsey Media Group, innovative streaming and recording, has done it again. A new way to get your business in full view of your neighborhood consumer through AdShare TV. It's available in your neighborhood today. It's easy. Just call us 754-999-6020. Become a host today and place a TV monitor in a strategic location so it's easy to see. Get a 1-minute video ad or longer that plays anywhere in our network. Can't be a host? No problem. For a few dollars, we'll run your 30-second video ad. A host can run announcement specials like buy one get one free or discount ads. Let's turn your flyers into a 30-second video with music or a voiceover, or let us create and run your video ad with a spokesperson. Take advantage of our early enrollment discount. Join us today. Your ad will be seen at least 30 times per day in your AdShare TV neighborhood. It's easy. Just call us 754-999-6020. AdShare TV, part of Pulsey Media Group.
Are you crazy about the music industry? You aspire to hit it big in music? Or maybe you've sweated out a soulful killer beat and are now stuck finding it's not as easy as it looked. Oh, but it can be easy for you with JTMC. We've been there. We know how it feels. So we solve challenges like production, promotion, marketing, branding and development, and more. With over 30 years of experience, JTMC is a one-stop shop for artists. We handle your graphic design, writing services, PR, as well as event planning, e-blasts, artist management, and bookings, so also your website and social media needs as well. We're experts in using creativity to persuade audiences on behalf of artists, drawing on our diverse experience to create projects that connect with audiences intellectually and emotionally. Artist success is everything to us, and our years of experience and commitment will be behind you for every one of your needs. If you've got music for the world to hear, whether you're a new or established artist, visit us at jtmcenterprise.com. Are you crazy about the music industry? You aspire to hit it big in music? Or maybe you've sweated out a soulful killer beat and are now stuck finding it's not as easy as it looked. Oh, but it can be easy for you with JTMC. We've been there. We know how it feels. So we solve challenges like production, promotion, marketing, branding and development, and more. With over 30 years of experience, JTMC is a one-stop shop for artists. We handle your graphic design, writing services, PR, as well as event planning, e-blasts, artist management, and bookings, so also your website and social media needs as well. We're experts in using creativity to persuade audiences on behalf of artists, drawing on our diverse experience to create projects that connect with audiences intellectually and emotionally. Artist success is everything to us, and our years of experience and commitment will be behind you for every one of your needs. If you've got music for the world to hear, whether you're a new or established artist, visit us at jtmcenterprise.com.
Matthew 28:19 says, "Go ye therefore and teach all nations." With this in mind, and encouragement received during a South Florida media conference, The Church Links was birthed. The Church Links is an interdenominational worship service portal for churches, providing the tools to spread the word through technology in a cost-effective way. The Church Links, www.dahchurchlinx.com. Your links to worship and praise.
It takes an entire village to raise a child. Hello, I'm Paul Campbell, here to talk about Palace. Peace and Love Academic Scholarship. This nonprofit group supports students facing serious obstacles from entering or continuing their studies, not because the grades are failing, but due to the lack of financial support.
Over the past 8 years, Palace has awarded 600 scholarships valued at approximately 50.3 million Jamaican dollars, or 415,000 US dollars.
Together, we must build a better future for our children. Please visit www.palace1.org and make your donation to brighten the future of a deserving child. Palace, preserving young minds for posterity.
Yes. Akar Mantino, I'm making notes right now. You are locked in to DJ Kevin Stew on the night shift.
Eyes open up, I'm waking up. Life me not give up. It got me trust, so do it up. I trust, I'm keep the walk. You can't fail if you try no way. Let God be your guide all day. Give your all every time I say. Just know you are not penny nobody. Right now while you have this today. Go all out and don't go halfway. You can't win, that is all I say. Just know you are not penny nobody. So when you're meditating, I got money, good life you're penetrating. You want go speak straight, elevating. Go hard right now, no waiting. The question is what you do today, king. You can't cheat life, that I'm not debating. You have to put in the work, forget the great things. All night, all day, till you see the scrapings. Ching. You can't fail if you try no way. Let God be your guide all day. Give your all every time I say. Just do you want no penny nobody. Right now while you have this.
I want to welcome you back to the show. This is the sound of Caramanti. A track called Eyes Open Up.
I beg your overs on guitar. Me no mean you fi work hard, but me mean is your fist man, master. Cause some who know I go hard, now see ma who know yard, always pan guard, no sir. You fi include the master, overstand say that a the forecaster. Get balance with God in the center, so everything you want you will get that faster. You can't fail if you try no way. Let God be your guide all day. Give your all every time I say. Just do you want no penny nobody. Right now while you have this today. Go all out and don't go halfway. You can't win, that is all I say. Just do you want no penny nobody. You can't fail if you try no way. Let God be.
I want to say a special thanks to Althea and her Healing Heavenly Hands for sponsoring this segment of the show. Althea is a licensed massage therapist that comes to you. So if you're in Broward County, North Miami-Dade, South Palm Beach County, just give her a call. She'll come to you. And in times like these, Dorian rolling through and all, I'm sure there are some people with some real tense muscles in need of some real therapy.
Let God be
So give Althea a call, 954-655-9000, 954-655-9000, or drop her an email at thealater@att.net. So if you're just tuning in, we're talking about global warming and how it has been affecting us, global warming and its effects. And some of the little things that are happening around us. You know, they say the way to cook a frog is to put it in comfortable water, in a comfortable environment, put in room temperature water, and then you put a flame, you apply heat to that water. So as the water heats up, the frog acclimatizes. But if the water is already boiling and you toss the frog into the water, it'll do everything to jump out. We are pretty much those frogs right now. Because as it is, we have been comfortable, but it has been getting hotter around us, and all we have done was to do whatever it is to make us more comfortable, not realizing that what we're doing is making the situation even worse. Right. We often hear it's another record temperature, whether it's another record heat or it's another record cold. Yeah, you got to answer that. Very well. Very good. Extreme heat has become increasingly common. And it will become even more intense in the years to come. And this has serious implications for people, for communities, for infrastructure. Occasional heat waves have always been an aspect of summer weather in most of the United States. But as climate change makes heat waves more intense and more frequent, we need to be cognizant of the dangers and health risks that come along with these heat waves. Over the coming decades, every region of the US is expected to experience hotter temperatures and more frequent and intense heat waves. Thus, worsening heat poses serious health risks, especially for the very young and the elderly. Those that are living in between are the ones that are loving it up and adjusting and whatever else, because, you know, we're resilient. But think about the others. But not only does the very young and the elderly get affected by it, those that say, you know, we're young and sprightly and we can adjust, we're in the areas of construction and agriculture. And what happens when you work in those areas is that you're outside a lot. And where do you feel the heat the most? There you go. It's not rocket science. So everybody is affected by it. Those living in the core of urban areas, you're affected by it. There are 2 companion fact sheets that summarize the latest science on how extreme heat has changed and is likely to keep changing as global temperatures rise. The current and potential impacts of extreme heat on people, how these changes could be curtailed if we take action to reduce heat trapping emissions we're putting into the atmosphere. They're all available for our research and for our reading and for our knowledge. When you look at or use the words heat wave, an excessive heat event, heat advisory, hot spell, they all relate to extreme heat. And extreme heat has many different names, but generally refers to temperatures that are either exceptionally high relative to typical local conditions or reach levels that may be harmful to human health or infrastructure. When extreme daytime temperatures persist over a prolonged period, usually at least 2 days, so we're not talking about a 1 week period, 2 days, it is often referred to as a heat wave. The human body sweats to cool itself when exposed to high temperatures. In humid conditions, sweat does not evaporate as quickly, and the body's ability to cool itself is compromised. Heat stress can result, and if not addressed, it can lead to heat-related illnesses like heat exhaustion and heat stroke. See the problem? The impacts of temperature extremes on human health and well-being are therefore generally considered in concert with humidity to measure heat stress conditions, those in which the human body has difficulty cooling itself. Now, extreme heat events can be measured in a few different ways. The maximum temperatures hit being the intensity, how often the event occurs being the frequency, or how long they last being the duration. The Dust Bowl era of the 1930s holds a record for peak frequency, intensity, and duration of heat waves across much of the United States to this day. But the frequency and intensity of heat waves have increased in the last several decades in many regions. In addition to changes in extreme temperatures alone, studies of heat stress trends over the late 20th to early 21st century found increases across much of the country in the conditions that cause heat stress for humans. In a study of changes in extreme heat stress conditions at 187 weather stations across the US between 1949 and 2005, 20% of the stations had recorded a substantial increase in the number of one-day extreme heat stress events relative to local conditions between 1961 and 1990. On average, these stations recorded 12 more days with extreme heat stress per year in 2005 than they did in 1949. Now, some might say, it's only 12 days. Look at how it was in 1949 and how it is now in 2005 back then. But go ahead and make a comparison 2005 and 2015 and tell me what you find. In the next few decades, if carbon emissions continue to grow, most of the country could see 20 to 30 more days annually with maximum temperatures above 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah, 20 to 30 days, sorry. Now, that's a big deal. That raises the average temperature for the year. And that might not seem like a big deal because it's just the average temperature for the year. But it is a big deal. And later on, we'll see why it's a big deal. The Southeast could be hit even harder, potentially enduring 40 to 50 more days of extreme heat. So, the northernmost states looking at 20 to 30 more days annually of heat above 90 degrees. The southernmost states, 40 to 50 more days. Now, we down here in South Florida know what it is like to be experiencing hot days on a regular. Can you imagine 40 to 50 more intense days of heat? Or days of intense heat. I should put that differently, yeah. That's no joke. By 2100, all parts of the United States are likely to experience more heat waves, with the southeast, southwest, and Alaska likely to see the biggest increases. Not only will these heat waves be more frequent, they will also be hotter than what we experience today. If carbon emissions continue to increase substantially, the hottest daily temperatures that occur in a given year in the United States are likely to increase by at least 10 degrees Fahrenheit as compared to the end of the 20th century. Now, a 10-degree increase in temperature, again, I'll say, may not seem like a big deal. But put this into perspective. And I'll probably I'll probably mention this again before the night is out, before the show is over. When the majority of the US was covered in snow and ice, the temperature was only about 10 degrees cooler on average than it is now. Take that into consideration. So, let's move on. Heat is among the deadliest extreme weather hazards in the US. When exposure to heat is high enough to raise a body's core temperature, heat stress, illness, which encompasses heat cramps, heat exhaustion, and heat stroke, these things then manifest. With heat cramps, an individual experiences muscle pain and spasms. With heat exhaustion, you can get dizziness, weak pulse, nausea, and fainting. The most severe heat-related illness is heat stroke, and that occurs when a person's temperature increases above 103 degrees Fahrenheit. Increased daily air temperatures and periods of extended high temperatures have also shown to increase cardiovascular mortality, respiratory mortality, and heart attacks. The body cannot handle it. Some US residents are at higher risks or greater risk of adverse health effects and death from extreme heat. Low-income residents, the young, the elderly, construction and agricultural workers, individuals with pre-existing medical conditions, and people living in the center of urban areas can be more vulnerable to physical harm from heat. Something that you can't see and touch, but you can definitely feel, can be more physically harmful. So, how does the extreme heat affect your daily life? How can it affect the aspect of life and routines? You know, what is it that we need to be so concerned about? We have air-conditioned vehicles. We have air-conditioned buildings. Well, yeah, you may spontaneously combust at this point, for real. But this is what we are facing. This is the reality of the situation, and if we don't do something about it, it is going to be worse. And when I say worse, I mean, whoa, kind of worse. And these are the things that we don't want happening. You know, we're looking at not just our lives. And again, we look at ourselves now and say, you know, we bounce back from this, we bounce back from that. We're young, we're sprightly, we're strong. In 15 years, how young and sprightly and strong are you going to be? Yeah, I did say 15 years. Think about it. If you're 40 now, how old are you in 15 years? Right, 55. If you're in the US, you're really looking at retirement age. Well, quote unquote retirement age. Fast approaching. You are you can now live in a 55 and over community. So you have reached to the next phase. Well, if you make it. Now, in those 15 years, if you're living in coastal areas, you may have to be worrying about how you're going to be living, because flooding has increased and you have sustained 3 cases of coastal flooding, and now your insurance has gone up significantly because you've had these damages, and now you have to be considering moving somewhere else, and you don't have a new job, or you can't get a job because you're looking at retirement, and the age that you're at, nobody wants to hire you. You see things and things and things, and they pile on and they pile on and they pile on, and now you have emotional stress because you have to deal with this, and it's hot outside, so now you have heat stress and you have to be dealing with this, and your heart can't take it, and now you're getting more medication to compensate for. And then you have the side effects of the medication, and you need medication for the side effects of that medication. You notice things and more and more and more, causing more stress. Where do we end up? But where did it begin? It began here, where we are right now. And that scenario I painted is 15 years away. A decade and a half. It sounds like a long time, but is it? I don't think so. When you take into consideration the fact that you're 40 now, 15 years ago was not a very long time. However, if you're 15 years old, you might say, boy, you know, in 15 years, I'll be 30, I'll be an adult, I'll be looking to go out there and do these things that I've been dreaming of doing. But if where I live now, I'm getting all of these issues with flooding and whatever else, okay, now I'm going to have to move. Where am I going to move to? Let's consider these things. Okay, since it's hotter down here in South Florida, let me move north. I hear Alaska has been opening up. Oh, wait a minute, what? Alaska will be facing some hot temperatures too? Oh, but they're not facing it right now. Cool. Let me jump on this wave. This early migration to Alaska. But wait, hold on. Didn't Alaska used to be very cold a lot of the time? So, if it's warming up now, doesn't that mean that the ice is going somewhere? No, that causes another problem. We're going to take a quick little break. When we come back, we look at the impacts of extreme heat on daily life. And we go on and see how much more we can touch before we close out the show tonight. Yeah? We'll be right back. Call a friend, tell a friend. The night shift to DJ Kevin Stew is on, still going, still rocking. Some people can still join in, and you can still share. 773-789-STEW, 773-789-7839, or just jump into the stew pot on kevinstew.com. It's where we keep things bubbling. Yeah? Alright, cool. We'll be right back.
Today in school I learned a lot. In chemistry, I learned that no one likes me. In English, I learned that I'm disgusting. And in physics, I learned that I'm a loser.
Today in school, I learned that I'm ugly and useless. And in gym, I learned that I'm pathetic and a joke. In history, I learned that I'm trash.
Today in school, I learned that I have no friends. In English, I learned that I make people sick. And at lunch, I learned that I sit on my own because I smell. In chemistry, I learned that no one
In biology, I learned that I'm fat and stupid.
In English,
And in math, I learned that I'm trash.
the only thing I didn't learn in school today.
The only thing I didn't learn today.
The only thing I didn't learn
is why no one ever helps.
Kids witness bullying every day. They want to help, but they don't know how. Teach them how to stop bullying and be more than a bystander at stopbullying.gov. A message from the Ad Council.
JTMZ Music presents the highly anticipated, much talked about, The Juggling Rhythm Volume 1. This classic rhythm takes on a new life with tracks from both established artists and introduces some incredible new voices. Get your dancing shoes ready with The Juggling Rhythm, featuring international reggae dancehall artist Mr. Vegas, alongside Ian Sweetness, Ed Robinson, Jack Radix, Hezron, Dangling, Joanna Marie featuring Galaxy P, Denny Ranks featuring Jawiz, Ambalik, Christine Alicia, Yishka. Also the new sensations on the rhythm: Zeal, Danger Lee, Marquis Skelenar, Zachary. Available on all digital media outlets. The Juggling Rhythm. Get it, get it, get it.
When being in the moment is priceless, consider the ability to share that moment. If you can video it, you can broadcast it. And Pulse E-Media Group has the tools you need. Weddings, birthdays, funerals, graduations, church services, parties, seminars, you name it. Pulse E-Media Group can provide you with a secure medium controlled by you to broadcast your event. Contact us at www.pulseemediagroup.com for more information. Pulse E-Media Group, when being in the moment is priceless.
Hey, I'm representing for DJ Kevin Stew, working on the night shift. The night shift radio show won't go changing like the weather, just to please the devil never. Will DJ Kevin Stew sell his soul? That's a word and honor. It's Christine representing word and honor. Selassie DJ Kevin Stew.
Life is a journey. The longer you live, the more you learn it. Woo, yeah. Most I have been through the struggle every day. Still stand firm on my journey, oh yes. Man, never lose my way, yes. Say by your works you get your pay. Me no care when I eat then I no backbiters want to say check it. Still a judge I lead the way. Him guide my footstep, oh yes. And never be night and never be day, yeah. And even though things set away, me not go sell out me soul for vanity, cause in the end I need no pay, yeah. Oh, I'm truly giving thanks for everything. Gotta take the good with the bad and turn them into positive. The Father provides us with everything, yeah. But we, His people, corrupt the whole entire system. 'Cause that is the way life goes, ups and down, round and round it goes. That is the way life flows. It flows, yeah.
This is the sound of Kirk Davis.
Ups and down.
A track called That's the Way Life Goes. Some of you may know him as Little Kirk.
Life flows. So never you let the system let you be a victim. Never you go and compel and get red eye for the quick thing. Never you get addicted, sell out your soul and you listening. You time, you mind, you get a beating. There is no better way. Things set away. Y'all way. Hold on to the most high, don't not let him go now. Die. Never your knees are brave, on your knees don't ever pray. Way life goes, ups and down, round and round it goes. That is the way life goes. Ooh, life, life. That is the way life goes. Ups and down, round and round it goes. That is the way, I've been through so much in my life, but I got to make a way, 'cause I'm a survivor, and I got to stay alive, yeah. No matter what come at me, I know that life, the Father is the life giver, but He never give a man more than he can bear. And do you wear and do you well, yeah. That is the way life goes, ups and down, round and round it goes. That is the way life flows. Ooh, yeah.
I want to say thanks to JTMC for sponsoring this segment of the show.
Ups and down.
JTMC providing tour management, booking, promotions, event management, social media management, entertainment management needs. All you have to do is give them a call. 754, no, not that number. 678-793-8800. At 678-793-8800. Give them a call. Tell them you heard about them right here on the night shift to DJ Kevin Stew.
Round and round and round and round. Way life goes, ups and down, around and round it goes. That is the way life flows.
The way life goes.
That is the way life goes.
Is that the way how life has to go?
Round and round it goes.
Who dictates that?
That's the way life goes. That's the way life goes.
So we're talking about heat and how the heat waves and the hot seasons have increased over the years. And we said we'd look at some of the impacts of extreme heat on daily life, because like it or not, believe it or not, it does have an effect. And there are some routine things that really get affected in some wicked ways. Going to school is one of them. The effect of hot conditions on children diminishes their abilities to learn and lowers their performance on tests. Low income and minority students are disproportionately affected, and research suggests that this is in part because they are more likely to attend schools and live in homes without air conditioning. You see a problem there? Okay, let's say you don't see a problem with that. How about working outside? Millions of people work outside. Millions of people living in the US work outside. And that's their primary place of work. You have your construction workers, your police officers, your farm workers, your military personnel, roofers, postal workers, landscapers. Need I continue? All outdoor jobs. A bunch of the essential services, outdoor jobs. These are all at risk of heat stress when temperatures are high. How about urban residents? They face unique heat-related risks in a changing climate. In addition to experiencing the effects of global temperatures increasing, cities experience temperature increases locally due to the urban heat island effect. Cities are hotter primarily because they contain the abundance of heat-retaining materials and surfaces such as asphalt, pavement, and cement, not to mention steel. You see the problem there? All in the name of development. But don't think that rural areas are left out. No, no, no. Because heat stress also has major implications for rural residents' livelihoods. Heat stress can have negative effects on crop production, as it can adversely affect several processes, including flowering and photosynthesis. You'd think, oh, it's a plant, it needs the sunlight. It needs the sunlight, but the heat? Not to mention livestock. Just like us humans, the animals are affected by the heat. Now, many types of infrastructure are also affected by extreme heat. Or roads, or rails, or air travel, all affected by heat. A 2017 heat wave in Phoenix led to dozens of flight cancellations when temperatures increased to 119 degrees Fahrenheit. This was 2 years ago. This was above the operable limit of several types of aircraft. So, air travel was a no-no. So don't think that, oh, hey, it's an airplane, temperatures are cooler when you go higher, so let's take off and up and away. No. Before you can take off, you need to taxi. And if your aircraft is not designed to operate under certain external temperatures, then that can cause a problem. So now people's lives are at stake. Why you want to be jeopardizing lives? So you have to cancel the flights. It's not just extreme cold that causes flight cancellations. No, extreme heat does it too. So again, it comes back to us. What do we need to do? Well, by stabilizing carbon emissions in the next few decades, so atmospheric carbon dioxide remains below 550 parts per million by 2100, the frequency of heat waves in the US are likely to see around mid-century would be reduced by approximately 50% if we can cut down the carbon emissions. And this is compared to a scenario in which carbon emissions continue to increase rapidly through to 2100. If the global community pursues aggressive emissions reductions in line with the Paris Agreement goal of keeping warming below 3.6 degrees Fahrenheit, the hottest daily temperatures that can occur each year in many parts of the country are likely to increase by just 3.6 degrees Fahrenheit versus 10 degrees Fahrenheit as compared to higher emissions, the scenario that is created with higher emissions. Individuals and communities need policies and infrastructure that take better account of more frequent, intense, and longer-lasting extreme heat. For example, in the coming decades, increased reliance on air conditioning to cope with extreme heat is likely to contribute to increased global warming emissions, worsening air quality, and increase in air pollution-related mortality unless we, right now, aggressively invest in clean energy technology, energy conservation, and energy efficient measures. All this have to happen now. So existing policies need to be leveraged and new policies enacted to better help people, particularly outdoor workers, children, low-income and minority groups, elderly people, athletes even, for them to cope with the extreme heat. Policies that ensure the safety of all outdoor workers, documented or otherwise. Because, some people don't care because outdoor workers are undocumented. Well, okay, fine. Let's say the outdoor workers are undocumented and we don't need to care about them. They fall dead. Who's going to do the work? Oh, I didn't even think about that. So it's not a documented or undocumented situation. It's a people situation. So there also needs to be an expansion of access to and awareness of public cooling facilities. How many of them you know about in your community? Do you know of any? No. These are the things, the little things that we need to be aware of that can make a big difference. Now, another thing is the extreme precipitation. Floods in inland areas are the most common type of natural disaster in the United States, and one of the most harmful to people and property. In 2017 alone, 25 people lost their lives trapped in floods, and more than $3 billion were lost in property damages and ruined crops. So here it is again. You're going to move from the coastal areas and you're going to go inland to face what? A flooding of a different kind. Flooding of a different kind. Global warming is shifting rainfall patterns, making heavy rain more frequent in many areas of the country. And with human alteration of the land, like the engineering of rivers and destruction of natural protective systems and increased construction on floodplains, many parts of the United States are at greater risk of experiencing destructive and costly floods. It's not rocket science, but, it is made to sound good. But it's not everybody that's going to live there. The people that are making it sound good don't live there. There's a fact sheet that presents a synopsis of the latest scientific findings on how rainfall and flooding patterns in the United States have changed and the causes of these changes. Not a theory, a fact sheet. And there's an inclusion of a summary of possible changes to come and recommendations for making communities more flood resilient. Now, while coastal flooding and sea level rise are important parts of the complete picture of flood risk, this particular report focuses on inland flooding only. So, what can be done when looking at inland flooding? You need to things like funding efforts to map and communicate flood risks, invest in flood resilient landscapes and infrastructure, fund research and monitoring of precipitation and flooding, cut carbon emissions to limit global warming. These things are things that really need to happen. Why? Because now you're having more frequent, heavier rainfall. Because with rising global temperatures due to increased heat trapping emissions, you have more water evaporating from the land or the surface of the earth. So land and sea. And the warmer the atmosphere, you have more water vapor, right? So when you have more water vapor, then you have more rain and it's heavier. What happens when you have all this rain? Then comes the flooding. Who is affected by the floods? Everybody. So the very same people that are affected by the heat get affected by the floods. The essential services, your people that work outdoors, the torrential rain and flooding, these people are affected. The landscapers, the police officers, the construction workers, those on farms, livestock is affected. So in the very same way, you're running from flooding on coastal regions because of rising sea levels. Now you're running into flooding because of rising precipitation. Where are you gonna go? Because in the midst of all of this, then you also have the other issue of hurricanes. And what has been happening, well, you also have wildfires. Let's not leave that out. And I had some information here on hurricanes that I wanted to touch on real quick, because this is it's not just, you know, a thought, an idea. It's real. Your extreme events, because the number of record high temperature events in the US has been increasing, and the record of low temperature events has also been decreasing since the 1950s. The US has also witnessed increasing number of intense rainfall events. Then you have things like ocean acidification that is happening. Yeah, that means the acidity of the surface ocean waters has increased. Here's the thing. It has increased by about 30% since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. 30%. And this increase is the result of humans emitting more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere and hence being absorbed into the oceans. And the amount of carbon dioxide absorbed by the upper layer of the oceans is increasing by about 2 billion tons per year. All of these little things add up to our own demise. A bunch of things that I wanted to touch on. Let me not leave this out. Both the extent and thickness of Arctic sea ice has declined rapidly over the last several decades. That too is a contributor to sea levels rising. So we're losing the ice in the Arctic. Where is it going? Into the oceans. Sea levels are rising, causing more flooding. But the Arctic ice is also important. So you see the issue that we're having. You see how everything, pardon the pun, just snowballs. Let me see. There has been 294 billion metric tons decline in ice loss per year. That's crazy. If you look at a satellite image of the polar regions, say 30 years ago, 50 years ago, and compare it to now, you'll see a difference. And that's an issue. The amount of hurricanes and the intensity of these hurricanes have also increased over the years due to global warming. And it will be argued by some that no, it is not as a result of the global warming. It just so happens that these hurricanes have been strong. But think about it, look at it. I remember back in my first hurricane that I can say that I had experienced was 1988 with Hurricane Gilbert. And for those who experienced Gilbert know that this was a massive storm. And on the little island of Jamaica being hit by this massive storm, it's a big deal. And for years after that, there hadn't been a storm of that type of intensity. But you look in the last, let me see, from 2000 till now. So 1988 was Gilbert. From 2000 till now, in the last 20 years, there had been, 5 major storms? 6 maybe? And in the similar time period before that, there was 2 maybe? Don't quote me on that. I'm just going off memory at this point. But these are the things that we're talking about when we're looking at global climate change and how they're affecting us. Listen, each of us can do something to make a difference. If the question is what, go ahead and do some research. Because the information is there. First, let's look at what climate change is. Look at what causes it. If you recognize what can cause it, then there's an awareness of what can prevent it. What can you as an individual, what can we as individuals do to make a difference? That one thing. What is that one thing that we can do that can make that change? That is where we need to be. That's how we need to be thinking as a community. We think that way individually. We get together as a community. We share those thoughts. We share those ideas. And we move to make a better, smaller community by way of continuing to build on that. The community at large then starts to change. And things get better and better and better. That is how we ended up in this position in the first place. Everybody started doing the same thing. So let's everybody start doing the same thing, but make it a better thing. Can we do that? Let's give it a try. Nothing beats a trial but a failure. Let's give it a try. Because at the end of the day, a number of us, let me not say most of us, a number of us are going to live to experience some of these things getting even worse. But what's even scarier than that is our children and our grandchildren are going to have to endure it after we are gone. Now, if we're so protective of our children, no. Is that going to change in the next 10, 15, 20 years? What about those that have not had children yet? Wait until you have that first child. Then you'll start to wonder. When that child is just an infant, and it is so hot, so unbearably hot, that all that child is doing is crying because of discomfort, and you don't know what to do with yourself. When you've had that experience, that really changes how you'll think. Why bother have that experience? Why can't we just work towards preventing that from happening at all? Okay, so things have gone to a point where you can't prevent it from happening at all. Let's minimize how often it happens. We can control that. Clearly, we have shown where we can control that because the frequency has increased as a result of us. So let's do something to reduce the frequency. And it doesn't happen overnight. So don't think that when we're making these changes now, that because we don't see it happening immediately, we're going to say, oh, you know what, let's give up because this is not working. It didn't get to this point overnight. It's funny to me that we are looking at carbon emission being one of the biggest contributors to global warming, but yet still changing how we commute is not a priority. The increase of electric vehicles is not a priority. The increase of solar systems, being solar paneled, solar energy and wind energy systems, are few and far between. Because all those things are free and we don't have to mine them. Seriously? Everything comes back to that money trail, doesn't it? We need some musical therapy.
It's a good day. Ain't nothing gonna stop my stride or broke my vibe. All of that can go to him. I already made up my mind that I'm living my best.
In the midst of it all,
Every day above ground.
every day above ground is a good day.
Cause every day above ground is a good day. Instead of fight and quarrel and complain, give thanks and praise is what you should say. Cause every day above ground is a good day. And every day above ground is a good day. Instead of fight and quarrel and complain,
This is new music from Korik.
you should say. Cause every day above ground.
Yeah, don't go looking for it. It hasn't been released yet.
Wherever you go, just shining sunlight through my window.
Actually, go looking for it.
Because no one knows tomorrow. So
That may actually speed up the release date.
every breath I breathe is a blessing.
In fact, y'all need to blow up Korik's social media and tell him, listen, we need this released. We need to get our hands on this track because it's a wicked tune, and we need things like this to wake up to. The reminder that every day above ground is a good day.
It's a good day. Ain't nothing gonna stop my stride or broke my vibe. All of that can go to him. I already made up
K-O-R-I-Q, Korik.
every day above ground. Yeah. Every day above ground. Cause every day above ground is a good day. Instead of fight and quarrel and complain, give thanks and praise is what you should say. Cause every day above ground is a good day. And every day above ground is a good day. Instead of fight and quarrel and complain, give thanks and praise is what you should say. Cause every day above ground is a good day. Blessings step on me everywhere I go. Just shining sunlight through my window. Him say give thanks for life today because no one knows tomorrow. So I give thanks, no time for stressing. Every breath I breathe is a blessing. Respect to you, Jah. I'm confessing you're on it. I'm not getting say. Cause every day above ground is a good day. And every day above ground is a good day. Instead of fight and quarrel and complain, give thanks and praise is what you should say. Cause every day above ground is a good day. Got no time to be hateful. There's so much to be grateful for. You might never have your plate full, but from your living and breathing, stay cheerful and give thanks and learn this lesson. Every breath we breathe is a blessing. Respect to you, Jah. I'm confessing you run things. I'm not guessing, cause every day above ground is a good day. Instead of fight and quarrel and complain, give thanks and praise is what you should say. Cause every day above ground is a good day. And every day above ground is a good day. Instead of fight and quarrel and complain, give thanks and praise is what you should say. Cause every day above ground is a good day.
I want to say thanks to GMAT Music Solutions for sponsoring this segment of the show. GMAT Music Solutions providing stage and stage lighting and sound service, production services, musical equipment, PA systems, engineers, DJs, musicians, singers, you name it. GMAT Music Solutions will bring your event to life. Give them a call, 754-307-GMAC. That's 754-307-4622. Or visit them at gmatmusicsolutions.com. Tell them you heard about them right here on the night shift with DJ Kevin Stew. Listen, every day above ground is a good day. One more time, Korik.
It's a good day. Ain't nothing gonna stop my stride or broke my vibe. All of that can go to him. I already made up my mind that I'm living my best life. Every day above ground. Every day above ground. Cause every day above ground is a good day. Instead of fight and quarrel and complain, give thanks and praise is what you should say. Cause every day above ground is a good day. And every day above ground is a good day. Instead of fight and quarrel and complain, give thanks and praise is what you should say. Cause every day above ground is a good day. Blessings step on me everywhere I go. Just shining sunlight through my window. Him say give thanks for life today, because no one knows tomorrow. So I give thanks, no time for stressing. Every breath I breathe is a blessing. Respect to you, Jah. I'm confessing you run things. I'm not guessing, cause every day above ground is a good day. Instead of fight and quarrel and complain, give thanks and praise is what you should say. Cause every day above ground is a good day. And every day above ground is a good day. Instead of fight and quarrel and complain, give thanks and praise is what you should say. Cause every day above ground is a good day. Got no time to be hateful. There's so much to be grateful for. You might never have your plate full, but from your living and breathing, stay cheerful and give thanks and learn this lesson. Every breath we breathe is a blessing. Respect to you, Jah. I'm confessing you run things. I'm not guessing, cause every day above ground is a good day. Instead of fight and quarrel and complain, give thanks and praise is what you should say. Cause every day above ground is a good day. And every day above ground is a good day. Instead of fight and quarrel and complain, give thanks and praise is what you should say. Cause every day above ground is a good day.
I'll ride with the open tie. I'll run the whole damn night. I search every corner just to find you.
This is Xavier Ward working out with Skip Marley. Track called All I Am.
Just like on when I lie with you. Whenever you can take the pressure, it can be whatever. I got you through it all. When you hurt and you know I feel it first, it's a blessing and a curse. I still got you through it all. Give you everything I am. By goes my plans for you. I'd
the flavor, got the sauce on, yeah. Anywhere you wanna go, just say the word and you know I'ma take you there. Oh yeah.
This is King Charles.
Somebody remind you if you feeling lost out.
Track is called Juice.
Oh, I just wanna make you mine, so waste no time. Change your life. You and I will chase the skies and no limit. If you want to, you can be my queen and I will be your king forever. If you want to, you can be my queen and I will be your king forever. Oh yeah, girl, you got the moves, you got the juice, you got the flavor, got the sauce on, yeah. Anywhere you wanna go, just say the word and you know I'ma take you there. Oh yeah, you need somebody remind you. If you feel lost, I'll find you. Oh, I just wanna make you mine. So if you want to, you can be my queen and I will be your king forever. If you want to, you can be my queen and I will be your king forever.
This is the sound of G-Mac. Yeah, he does this too. His rendition of Things You Say. Listen, don't take this guy simple.
Things you say you love, you're gonna lose. Can't last too long the way you are flirting. Can't last too long the things you are doing. That's why I say lose. You're gonna lose. Things you say you love, you're gonna lose. You can't last too long the way you are flirting. You can't last too long the things you are doing. That's why I say lose. You're gonna lose. Things you say you love, you're gonna lose. Can't last too long the way you are shaking. Can't last too long the way you're vibrating. That's why I say lose. You're gonna lose.
I'm done with you sweet talking. It's time for you to go walking now. Time for you to go. Bye-bye. I gave you love and affection from the deep of my heart. Hey. Still you show no appreciation.
When they're together, I call them the Wonder Twins.
That's how it's been from
G-Mac and Shauna Dazzle.
hey. So I try to
You
be
just heard from G-Mac.
my ground.
This is Shauna Dazzle.
And I pray to the Lord
It's called No More Lies.
around. And now I found someone who'll always be around. your sad stories, 'cause I have heard them all before. Don't even try to call me. Come get your luggage from my door. I've got one life to give and I'm gonna give it to someone who'll always be around, yeah. To love, adore, and to take care of me. Make this house a happy home. So go ahead and do whatever makes you happy. I'll no longer wear a frown, no. 'Cause now I finally found someone who really got me. And now I'm ready to settle down, yeah. No more lies or your sad stories. Boy, I have heard them all before. Now I know that you don't know me. I can't take your crap no more, no. No more lies or your sad stories. Boy, I have heard them all before. Don't even try to call me. Come get your luggage from my door. Don't wanna hear from you. No more lies or your sad stories. Boy, I have heard them all before. Now I know that you don't know me. I can't take your crap no more. Oh, I had enough now. No more lies or your sad stories. Boy, I have heard them all before. Don't even try to call me. Come get your luggage from my door.
No way, no, not gonna lower mine for the money. No way, no, through it all I know the Lord will feed me.
When you talk about a talented family,
I am gonna stay gone,
this is Andrew Latouche.
just run away.
Andrew happens to be the cousin of Shauna Dazzle. Haven't played this one in a while. It's called No Way.
Well, there's all you see. You don't care for people like me. Can't spend all the wealth you own. What did you do to help the poor? What's this you want me to do? No, I can't be like you. Can't alone my stand this way where gotta go through yourself. You have no power over me. No, not with your knees. I serve the Almighty. He takes care of me. He gave me humility. Yeah, means poverty. And I work hard for bread. No, you'll never see me begging. No way, no, no way, no. Not gonna lower mine for the money. No way, no. Through it all I know the Lord will feed me. He'll feed me. I am gonna stay God's way only. Just run away, nigga, run away, yeah. Recession is causing the pain. Now I can't get my pay. I will not despair. God is always here. Life is full of sadness. I wanna feel some gladness. I wanna go to heaven. Milk and honey for me, oh yes. Hold on, my friends. Even I roll on to the end. I know it's hard to face. But it's truly yours in the end. Satan wants you distracted. To leave the Lord for you one day. With a full pocket, no, till the devil know when. No way, no, no way, no. Not gonna love man for the money. No, no way, no. Through it all I know the Lord will feed me. He'll feed me. I am gonna stay God's way only. Run away, God will test our faith. What would it do to survive? God is watching the sea, feel about food. Trust that He will provide. You better work hard and don't sit idly by, looking for a gift from the rich. Do your best, God will do the rest. Tell the devil no and no way, no, no way, no. Not gonna lower mine for the money, no, no way, no. Do it all, I know the Lord will be with you. Amen. I am gonna stay God's way only. So run away, never run away. No way, no, no way, no. Not gonna lower mine for the money, no way, no. Do it all, I know the Lord will be with you.
Way from all them crosses and lies in my life. I'ma find a way out. Away from
This is how we're gonna bounce on out of here tonight. This is Ed Robinson. It's called Find a Way Out.
5 o'clock in the morning. So sun name calling. Don't they have
I have so much music from Ed Robinson. We're gonna have to find out where he finds the time
o'clock in the evening? Wait
to record all these tracks, to write all these tracks.
about who's doing who.
This is Find a Way Out.
Way out, way out. Way from all them
And guess what?
crosses and lies.
For those in South Florida, those in the Fort Lauderdale area, next Tuesday, the 10th,
All them problems.
Ed Robinson will be at Blue Martini in Fort Lauderdale.
Tom says
But on the 9th,
we done take.
you can catch him right here on Community and Finance.
Jackie love to spread.
Looking forward to chatting with Ed Robinson next week.
Barry
Y'all should join me.
Eddie said they can all go to hell. I will find a way out, way out.
As I make my way out, this is Ed Robinson. Thank you all for sticking and staying. Thank you for contributing. Thank you for listening.
I will find a way out, way
Hope you got something to take away from this show with you.
out.
Catch you tomorrow, Healthy Love Night, 10 p.m. Eastern, right here, kevinstew.com.
Away from all them problems.
I'm out of here.
It's right. Round my life, yeah. 5 o'clock in the morning, so sun name calling. Don't they have better things to do? 5 o'clock in the evening, way too much gossiping, all about who's doing who. I will find a way out, way out, way from all them crosses and lies. In my life, I will find a way out, yeah, away from all them problems and strife. Round my life, yeah. Tom says, Harry done tell. Peter says, Jackie love to spread. Marvin says, Barry says, Eddie said they can all go to hell. I will find a way out, way out, away from all them crosses and lies. In my life, I will find a way out, yeah, away from all them problems and strife. Round my life, some begging 100, some begging 50. Still it won't help, no cannot help. Some begging 20.
When being in the moment is priceless, consider the ability to share that moment. If you can video it, you can broadcast it. And Pulse E-Media Group has the tools you need. Weddings, birthdays, funerals, graduations, church services, parties, seminars, you name it. Pulse E-Media Group can provide you with a secure medium controlled by you to broadcast your event. Contact us at www.pulsemediagroup.com for more information. Pulse Media Group, when being in the moment is priceless.